right. Oh my gosh. Hello, 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 hello. Here we go. Oh my gosh, look at me. I'm like a white angel today. I've got my Canada shirt on. This is like a running shirt. I'm kind of like whatever. Anyway, I hope everybody's awesome. Welcome to our Facebook Live today. Sorry, we're about a minute late. But anyway, super awesome week. As many of you know from my personal Facebook page that I did really good this weekend. I had a fun time at the Ironman Mont Tremblant. I did the 5150, which is an amazing short course version. It's awesome. And I worked my ass off, and I can finally say, just before we get started today, I can finally say that one of the coolest things about that was, if anybody knows anything, is that I've struggled with running probably. It's the one thing I've avoided. I work on swimming, I've worked on cycling, and the one thing I like to avoid is running. Not that I don't like running, it's just I like to just go out for a run. And I spend a lot of time just not saying, hey, listen, there's no technique to it or anything like that. But if you look at every other sport, they have techniques and training and stuff like that. So anyway, so I spent the past, I would say 7 months, I spent the winter season in Canada working on running and really just, taking as much advice and coaching as I can on it, studying other runners, hanging around with better runners than me. And so when I was signed up, normally I avoid running hills and I avoid running in heat. So like hills and heat was what we got this weekend. It was going to be hot, no wind, total hills, all that kind of shit. So anyway, long story short, I was dreading, like legitimately like dreading doing the Ironman weekend this weekend. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, seriously? It's going to be desert hot, 31 degrees, full on sun, full exposure to sun, going up hills. I was like, this is going to be the worst race of my life. I was like, the swimming I can handle, cycling mountains, no problemo. But that run, I was like, I'm going to probably die. So anyway, so I was sitting there and I was going, I don't even know what's going to happen. I was like, I hope I finish top 10. I was like, hopefully. And so anyway, so I do the swim, and I scaled it back because of the heat. I was really fast in transitions. Then I ended up going into the bike, and then I realized I was flying on the bike. I was going probably too fast, so I pulled back a couple miles per hour. If anybody knows anything about racing, I pulled back because I said, you know what? I know how hard the run's going to be. So I was like, for the first time ever, I was like, just pull back. So I pulled back on the cycling, jumped into the run, and then it happened. Before I get started on the topic today, this is what happened. I started the run, and somebody screams out. I didn't realize they do this. When you're in the lead, they have people along the course that tell you you're in the lead. So it's like a courtesy. They're like, you're number 1, or you're number 2, or you're number 3. They don't tell you if you're number 22, which is usually where I am, because everybody passes me in the run. So I'm sitting there, and I'm going, the hottest run I've ever done, in heat with no wind, and right out of the gate, they said, you're number 1, go. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, what? And I'm like, I gotta run. And I'm like, I don't want to lose this lead. Like, this is gonna be so painful. And I'm like, I don't want to lose this. So I'm running. And then all of a sudden, like the next kilometer, they're like, still in the lead, number 1, here's your time. And I'm like, I don't even know what these numbers mean. And I'm just like running for my life because you're not allowed wearing music. And then sure enough, you turn around the corner, you've got this whole group of people screaming at you where you're positioned. And I'm like, it's so much pressure, but it took my mind off of the heat. It took my mind off of the hills, and I literally was just like, I'm just going to like Forrest Gump this. I'm going to run like somebody's chasing me. Like, I'm just going to run because that's what it felt like. Everybody's screaming at you, and you're running by these other runners who are all looking at you, like, because we had to do a turnaround, and they're all looking at you like you're tonight's dinner. That's what they're doing. They're like, you're tonight's dinner, and we're going to catch you. And like, I got goosebumps because I was like, run. That sounds like just run. And then I had my friends on course, and my friends on course said to me, there was a halfway point, and they're like, whatever you do, don't walk. They're like, keep your legs moving. So anyway, long story short, I finished first, and that was the first time I ever stood on a podium for first place. I've had second, I've had third, but this is the first time. This is the first time at any Ironman event that I've actually stood on the podium for first place. So it was a really big friggin' deal. So I felt really good about that. So anyway, let me tell you something though. I tell you, there's a big difference between being passed by all the runners and people yelling at you to keep running because they're going to like eat you for breakfast. Okay? That was a lot of pressure. I would never want to be a pro. I'll tell you that much. I would never want to be a pro because that's what it would be like every race. And I was like, oh my God, that's too much pressure. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this. We're going to just jump right into it. I'm going to hammer out some things for you. Here's the thing. Our coaching company did a great job at getting people through COVID. So we did an amazing job. I think we were the only coaching company that led right out of the gate. We led right out. We were the earliest ones. We got it all on video. We got everybody, 800 companies where we need to get them to. We did a really good job of leading the way. We gave all the right advice. I feel like we did a really awesome job. Now we're entering into a very different market, very different phase. What we're doing in our company right now is we're taking a look, right? You know, some people are going to do really good, but we're seeing a little bit of lack of direction with a lot of people. So we're in that position right now where we're like, you know what? Listen, just sent an email this morning to somebody. I'm like, if you're not going to take your goals seriously and you're not going to be on board with it, then you're not really the right fit for us, right? So where we're going next requires a very different level. So if you're watching this and you're kind of thinking, where do I need to go for the next 6 months? My biggest suggestion to you guys is you need to have a business plan for the next 6 months. Where we were the last 6 months is so different than the next 6 months that the smartest thing for any business owner to do right now, whether you're in real estate as your business or whether you're in different business, is you need to have a different direction. It isn't the same. So when COVID hit in March of 2020, we scrapped all of our previous business plans. We literally kiboshed them. We lit them on fire, away they go. What we're doing now is the same thing. We're saying it's a different market the next 6 months, so you have to have a different strategy, which means we need different people on in our organization to really make sure that we get to where we need to get to. You're hearing a lot of people talk about a skill-based market. It absolutely is. If you're in the business right now, whatever business that you're in, you need a different level of skills, and you also need a different level of effort. If you had a really good past 2 years during COVID, which a lot of our clients did, we're cautioning them saying, listen, you got to be careful that you're not fat and fed. And what we mean by fat and fed, you've heard me talk about it, it's an expression, you know, and what that means. And I can say that. I used to be fat. So like it is not about physicality. It's an expression. Okay, so anybody who's going to send me a direct message later and tell me I'm terrible for using it, listen, you're talking to somebody who used to be 300 pounds. Okay, I use that expression then. I use the expression now. So being fat and fed means you had a really good 2 years, and what you've forgotten is you've forgotten what was like before. Okay, that's what it means. You've forgotten what it's like to grind it out. Okay, so here's a few tips that I'm going to tell you. All right, first thing that I'm suggesting is that, again, when you're planning the next 6 months, here's what I want you to do. First thing is that you're asking the question, the number one thing, do I use my beginning of the year goals or not? Okay, so realistically, I want you to think of something. Get excited about where you're going the next 6 months. I don't care if you're on track for the beginning of the year goals or you're totally off track for the beginning of the year goals. What I care about is don't look in the rearview mirror. Stop it. Okay, if you're somebody who's watching this and you're going, I've totally pooped the bed on the goals from the beginning of the year and I didn't, you know, let's say you wanted to make $100,000. I'm going to use that as a hypothetical rounded number. And let's say, hypothetically say that you're at 20,000. Well, that's okay, but that means you got $80,000 left, okay? So either you decide that that's important to you, you can't get mad at yourself for that. Either you're going to make up the $80,000 in the next 6 months, or you're going to turn around and say, I can't do that, but I'm going to be really excited if I do the following. Your goals should excite you. They should scare you a bit, but they should excite you, okay? I'm terrified of my goals all the time, but I'm not terrified to the point where I'm not sleeping at night. I'm terrified to the point because I know that it's going to require me to become a different person, that I'm going to see exponential growth in where I'm going. So your goals should excite you. Who cares what happened the last 6 months? Burn it up, let it go. If you had a great 6 months, good for you. If you had a bad 6 months, good for you. I'm sure you learned a lot of lessons. I don't care, but get excited about your goals. That's the first thing. Get clear and get excited where you want to go the next 6 months. And when you think about them, they should scare you a little bit, but not terrify you to the point where you're not sleeping. And you shouldn't compare yourself to anybody else with those. So turn that off, okay? So first thing is set your goals for the next 6 months, okay? And if you need to know what that is, get your measurables. You look up the word SMART goals. They have to be specific and measurable, okay? So next thing I want you to do, write 5 things that you want to have happen to your business in the next 6 months, okay? They can be big or they can be small. But what 5 things, okay, these are on the business items, not in the business. These are on the business, okay? What 5 things Usually they're systems or they're protocols or they're areas that you're bleeding revenue. So first thing is set your goals for the next 6 months. Let go of the past. We cannot go back to February or March or January. We can't go back. And I don't want to go back. Okay, so focus on really exciting, freaking awesome goals that get you excited for the next 6 months. Second thing I want you to do, write down 5 things of where you want your business functionality-wise, system-wise to go. If you're not good at lead follow-up, that would be one thing. I need to fix my lead follow-up system. If you're not good at calling clients for referrals or a system around getting referral business, I need to do this. Okay, if your brand is totally off, I need to rebrand myself and make sure that my brand is clear by the end of the year. 5 things that you want to do, okay, and they should almost be one for July, August, September, October, November. December, we're not going to worry about. Okay, that's business planning. But you want 5 things that are going to be systems that you're going to work on each month that is going to progress your business forward because they're not systematically in place right now. That'll be the smartest thing you can do. And prioritize them on what's bleeding you the most amount of revenue. Okay, if one thing that's bleeding you the most amount of revenue is that you don't have your database systemized, organized, and structured, I would put that as a priority. Put it as a priority to get that shit together in the month of July. Okay, so that's what you want to do. And work on 1 a month with measurable goals every week on them. Okay, that's the second thing. Third thing, okay, who am I needing in the next 6 months? Okay, so there's a great saying and there's a great book that my coach wrote about who, not how. Okay, and he wrote a great book on that, really awesome. The who, not the how. Okay, so if you're looking at the who, that means who in your business are you missing currently right now that you're going to need to get in place over the next 6 months? Could be a coach, could be a mentor, could be a scripting partner, could be an accountability partner, could be an assistant, could be a social media company. I don't care. Could be somebody to fix up your website because maybe your website looks terrible and you're like, well, I definitely need a who there. Okay, so that's the next one. Fourth thing, do a fresh P&L and have it reviewed. If you need a copy of the P&L, there's tons of them out there. You can Google it. If you're one of our clients, we give them out. So we have them for our clients and we ask our clients to do them all the time. But you should always check your revenue, okay? Now, the reason why is because here's the thing, okay? What I really hate is I hate all these people who run out and think just because the market's shifting or because inflation is happening, my biggest pet peeve is this. All those people who run around and they repeat a verbiage that I've heard 100 times, which is in a book somewhere where it says, scale back on your expenses. Okay, listen, one thing you'll know about me, I think big. I think huge. I always think that I can do the impossible and then I try to prove it. It might take 4 years, but I get there, okay? Because I don't live in scarcity. And what I hate the most is people who say that just because inflation is happening, you need to scale back on everything. Why would I scale back? Why don't I just build a bigger business? Why don't I find the opportunities in the current market and build something bigger? Oh, that's because it's easier to sit back and go, oh, well, you know, I think I'm going to scale back on 700 different things, and then I'm just going to what? You're not going to make any more money that way. You're not. Okay, so if you do a P&L, though, before you make those decisions, okay, full speed ahead. Exactly, Maureen. But here's the thing. If you do a proper P&L and have it reviewed professionally, then what you're going to see is where am I losing money and what is working. Okay? If I am spending, I know somebody's spending $40,000 a month on internet leads. Big team, $40,000 a month. The reach ratio is terrible. The returns are terrible. The appointments are terrible. The whole 9 yards. That person is cutting everything else, even employees in their team, but they're keeping the $40,000 a month. And I'm going, that makes no sense. I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. If you look at that person's P&L, they're bleeding revenue. Okay, why would you keep the 40,000? Knock it down to 10, figure out how to convert things better, coach the team stronger, train them better, get people on board who can convert those leads and let it grow. Okay, but instead the person's got a scarcity mindset and they're running around going, I got to scale back on everything. I'm going to fire my admin. I'm going to do this. I'm like, this makes no sense. Okay, so my point is that watch out for those people in the industry who tell you to scale back on everything, do a proper P&L, have it reviewed, see what the returns are, then make your decision on what stays, what goes, where I need to reinvest. So that's a big one. Okay, next thing, number 5, plan it out 30 days at a time. Okay, the market is moving a little bit slower now, but when you have your goals for the next 6 months, do them as 30 days. Chunk them down into 30-day increments and put them in writing. So have them in 30-day increments and only focus on 30 days at a time. Super smart idea. Okay, next one, reach ratio. Okay, if you're lead generating in your business, you need to be asking yourself, what is my reach ratio? If I'm doing social media, for example, okay, and I'm sitting there and I have, let's say, 2,000 people on my Instagram and I do a great post, what is my reach ratio? It should be 35% or higher. That means how many people are responding to my message. If I have 2,000 people on my Instagram and I'm getting 10 likes on a post or even 50 likes on a post, that is not 35%. Okay, that's not 35%. 35% would be 600, 700. That tells me that I'm marketing, which is good, but it's not lead gen. A reach ratio is about lead generation. Is your lead generation getting a 35% reach ratio? As you head into navigate a different market over the next 6 months, you want your reach ratio to be about 35% or higher. Okay, that tells me you're doing effective lead generation, it's great lead generation, and you're reaching people. If you're doing, I have a coaching client who told me this morning that they did 20 hours of door knocking. 20 hours of door knocking, 0 appointments. First question I asked, what's your reach ratio? And the person had a reach ratio, it was very low. Very, very low. Well, then you are either door knocking the wrong times, or you're not getting in the door like you're doing a neighborhood that's working during the day or night, or it's a really unfriendly neighborhood, or the houses are really far apart. But we need to figure out, why are you not reaching a lot more people? If you're door knocking 100 people in 1 hour and you're not reaching 35 answers at the door, we got an issue. Okay, so that's called the reach ratio. Be really careful that you're not confusing marketing to lead generation. Lead generation gives you a reach ratio. Marketing can still give you a reach ratio, but it's not what we're talking about here, okay? It's a lot less more, especially on social media and whatnot, okay? So a reach ratio is really important. Next thing, seventh thing, where the market is likely going, okay? So here's what a lot of people want to know. If you want to know my personal opinion, you had to wait to question 7 in order for me to get here. So if you're not watching this, you're going to miss it. So here's the thing. If you're looking at where I think the market is actually going, personally speaking, if you really want to know the truth, I think the market is I know this sounds very difficult for people to understand, but I totally don't believe, I hear the word crash all the time, and I really think that's crazy, okay? I really think it doesn't make any sense. If I'm looking at where the market is going, here's what I want to say. If your market went up 40% in the last 2 years, okay? So I challenge the word crashing all the time because I think it's a little too media-ish, okay? If the market went up 40% in home value in the last 2 years, okay, a typical seller's market is about 6 to 8% price increase per annum. So if it went up 40% in 2 years, that means 20% per annum. Okay, that is that's insane. That is far beyond. So you have to know that that's not realistic. So if it went up 40% and in the last few months, or 3 months, I should say, it dropped 20% in most markets. So now you're left with 20%. If I take that 20% and divide it into 2 years, that's still 10% growth per year. So technically speaking, if my market is 6% per year is a good seller's market price increase, then that's 12% over 2 years. So I take the 20 that's still remaining minus the 12, and I'm still 8% higher. I'm still 8% better than an actual natural 2-year seller market goes. So even if I lose that 8%, I've still technically been in a great seller's market for 2 years. Why is that a crash? I'm not understanding. So I feel like it's it's an uneducated statement when I hear things like the market's crashing, I'm waiting for it to bottom out. Well, you're not waiting for it to bottom out. The last 2 years we were a seller's market previous to entering into this market. So realistically, you take whatever percentage of the last 2 years is left, subtract what a regular seller's market in your area does, and you're still ahead. And then if you were in a balanced market, you only saw about 1 to 2% increases, which means that would be 4% over 2 years that pricing went up, in which case that still gives us, like I said, about 16% viability of a stronger market. So I guess in my head, I look at it and I can see the positive in it. Sure, interest rates are going up, which is going to affect affordability. But at the end of the day, I think the more people who keep acting like this is a market crash without really analyzing the numbers and looking them over that 2-year period, I think that's what's scaring a lot of consumers too. Yes, debt has gone, the cost of living. I have an 8-cylinder vehicle. I understand it's very expensive to put gas in. I've never put gas at the price that I've put in now. I've never seen my tank take $120 worth of gas. Now I see it taking $120 worth. But at the end of the day, you know what? I can mitigate around that, and I can also see, the reality. It means that, guess what? I'm not wasting food. If you really look at all the food and the cost of it, I'm not wasting food. Like that's a big one alone. I could probably chalk up the difference of gas to the food, and I can go, holy shit. Sometimes I could look and think I throw out so much food. So I'm being smarter with things, and that's great because it's challenging me. But where I think the market's going, like I said, is I think the more people who present it as doom and gloom, the challenging it's going to be. What I think is going to happen is July 13th is the next rate increase. I'm pretty sure the analysts are saying it's 0.75% increase in prime, and I think that 80% I believe is the number of analysts who are saying that that's going to be. I personally think it's going to be 0.25 if they follow the same pattern. However, I've been right for most of them. I think this one 20% is saying, like me, 0.25, 80% of the analysts are saying 0.75, the bank is saying 0.75, so I don't know what they're going to do. But what I do know for sure is the media is blatantly designed to make this sound like everything is going to fall apart in our worlds. And so I think, I'm preparing July 13th for the media to have a field day with scaring the pants off everybody. And I think if you've learned anything about the media, especially over COVID, over everything that's currently happened, you're really going to see that we have to be prepared for it. I can't compete with mainstream media. I can't, okay? They have way more reach and way more power than I have. So the only thing I can hope is that as business owners and as agents and whatnot, we can look at it and say it's still going to be lower, like they're not crazy rates even at 0.75%. So at the end of the day, United States is at 6% currently. So we have to really look at that and see on July 13th, one way or another, they're probably going to increase rates. And one way or another, the media is going to do everything they can to scare consumers, everything they can, okay? Because that is their job. Right? If they weren't doing it, what else would we have any use for them for? So anyway, so they've done a really good job of scaring the pants off of people, and this is good for them. You have to remember, their job is to scare us enough that we're reading their articles, we're clicking on their stuff, we're doing their things, we're paying attention to what they're saying, and they're slowing the markets down. So I do know the government is trying to do everything they can to take away the 40, 50% pricing growth, and they're doing a good job of it. They're taking it all away. They caused it, but they're doing a good job of taking it away from us now. Again, still not doom and gloom if you look at the 2-year, what's happened with the housing industry in the last 2 years, prospectively speaking. However, if you're also looking again, like I said, at what the media is going to do, they're going to land basis on July 13th. I am fully prepared for it. I'm prepared for the worst headlines. I'm prepared for the worst articles. I'm prepared for it all. And you know what? I'm also prepared for a big slew of people who are very uneducated in the market to come out and start telling everybody to, holy smokes, let's watch it. So what I think is going to happen on July 13th, again, when they do this and everybody gets scared, Canadians typically wait about 30 to 60 days. Okay, so they go about 30 to 60 days of pausing to watch what happens around them. It's also going to be summertime, so I think Canadians will hold back a little on any of the housing industry for about 30 to 60 days. I think we'll head into a buyer's market for September in most provinces across Canada. I firmly believe we'll be in a buyer's market come September, and we predicted this in November of last year. So nothing that I'm seeing is changing my mind on this right now, and I do think the market, we need to balance out a little, and I think that's where we're heading. I think you need to have it blow over a bit, and you need to see this kind of happen, and they need to address the housing prices. And the truth is what you have to remember, the good thing is we have to bring the prices down enough so that first-time home buyers can stimulate the market again. They control the market. If your city is too unaffordable for first-time home buyers, then you're in a big doo-doo. Okay, that is the truth, right? You got to keep those first-time home buyers moving. So where do I think we should go? Like I said, I think you should plan effectively. I would suggest having about 21 clients, because what happens is, the last rate change is June 2nd. What ended up happening was, I believe it was June 2nd. Anyway, what ended up happening was about 30% of consumers put a pause. Okay, and then they started coming back, within 30 days now, they started to come back. So what's going to happen is 2 weeks from now, you're going to get another rate increase. If it's as big as the 0.75, we can expect 50% of consumers to just take a little bit of a pause, about 30 to 60 days, and then start to reemerge in the fall market, okay? Unless something crazy happens before then, again, you got to, I'd like to say politicians don't do stupid things, but I'll be the first one to say that they do. Anyway, they are totally clueless, and everything that they're doing is very new, so I don't feel like they're making the best decisions. So I would say budget for 21 clients in the next couple weeks, bulk up as much as you can, and then expect that you're going to see about 50% if the rates go up as high as 0.75. Expect about 50% to be moved out of the market for affordability, or they're going to get so scared with what the media is saying that it's going to get in their head, and they're going to put a pause until they feel comfortable as Canadians, and then they'll reemerge in September. And I do believe that that's, we have a housing crisis in Canada. It's natural that this is going to happen. And then the last thing is best sources of lead generation, in my opinion, over the next few months is open houses. I think you're seeing, and it's not just standard open houses. This is a time to really get creative with open houses, build the open houses, the consumers coming to you, make them epic, use lead generation to get people to your open houses, figure out ways to educate during open houses, and really have your listings 2% better price than everything else on the market. So if you have a listing and you have that listing out there and it's a great listing, gone are the days where consumers are like, wow, that has like a really beautiful, it has, the highest end appliances. They don't care. They're not paying for it now. Okay, everybody's going to be looking at their pocketbooks, so you have to look at all your competition, price it 2% better than everything that somebody would look at if they're considering your property, other neighborhoods, everything. Remember, the profit margins people are sitting on houses is still exponentially large in Canada. Okay, so pricing it 2% ahead of everybody else is probably the best strategy you can go on. Okay, so you got a bunch of things on where you can plan for the next 6 months. It's up to you to take them there, people. All right. Anyway, if you have any great topics, let me know. We will see you next week. Bye, everyone.